Welcome to the show today. Today I have Peter Münzenmayer on the show, who is the head of Digital Smart Analytics Group Management at SwissRe. And I'm very excited to dive into your story today, Peter. Thank you so much for being on the show. So let's dive right in. So who is Peter and what's the story that got us to where we are today?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. So, who is Peter? That's a very tough question, very an open question. So, let me start here. So, I'm actually a father of two girls, to start on the private side. They are currently on vacation. So, that's an interesting piece because my older daughter, 13 years old, is currently at the UK doing a language stay. So, let's see how that turns out. And she's flying back the first time all on herself. So let's see if she's at the airport when I go and get her. The younger one actually is just in a normal Klassenlager. I don't know how to say that in English. And my wife is on study in Vienna currently as a teacher. So who I am? So I'm 45 years old, a long time in the insurance industry. I worked also in consulting and have a background in economics, where I studied at the University of St. Gallen. So that brought me a long way back at St. Gallen, starting looking into media, looking into the changes of the world, looking a lot in information. And that was actually also my main area. I was working for. I was studying information management, and that brought me a long way from looking at how information is created, how people exchange information, to the whole regulation about information, cross-border transfer of information. All these nice words like now also GDPR and personal sensitive data. And then I ended up eventually in looking more on how we can enrich data, how we can look into data, and what kind of possibilities are there. And in the last 4 years, I was heavily involved in topics like big data. Like now we have the buzzwords: big data, smart analytics, and how we can do this digital transformation. And I'm pretty much hooked into this topic. Now also in my current role. So what do I do next to working? Actually, I play golf. I'm also the president of our SwissRe golf club for 14 years already. That I enjoy very much. Mostly that my younger daughter is now also playing. Actually, she told me, why didn't I start earlier? So I have to tell you that I bought her first club when she was 4 years old, but she preferred ballet and dancing and these kind of things, and everything pink. And only when I forced the two girls 2 years ago to do a first training for a week, at least she really got into it. So she told me afterwards, why didn't you force me to play golf earlier? I'm like, okay, good. A discussion we have to have with your mother. She was more in ballet. So, but I'm very enjoying now that on the weekends we go out together and play golf. And for the older one, I don't know, maybe she also gets infected by the golf disease. So that's one of my biggest hobbies. I did quite a bit looking back. I was also doing some civil service. I was deputy commander, having over 150 people. And that was an interesting time in my life, especially when we really went to sites after an event. And working for SwissRe, having the insights, being at the location after flooding and seeing the damage that can happen, that was quite insightful and inspiring for me to do. On the other hand, there was, I recall, this one situation when we had an exercise, and I was leading it as a commander at that time with over 100 people. So standing in front of 100 people and making sure that you don't get into chaos, it's a very, very special experience. So that was one thing that I did as well.
Very interesting. Yeah. So you got quite a bit of a different, diverse career and background, you know, from civil service to, you know, insurance to also the whole world of IT that is backed by your studies and everything. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about this whole world of, you know, digital that is very, you know, it's a buzzword today, of course, but it's also something that pulls you in, as you mentioned before. I'm very curious about why. Like, why is this whole thing about digital and also this insurance industry that sometimes can feel a little bit dry from the outside? Like, why is this combination pulling you in?
Right, now you got me. So, okay. So, as I said, firstly I was looking at information. So how can we bring information into the company? How do we source information and all these things about payment, and how do we store information? How do we store records? How do we move into electronic records? What does that mean? All these regulatory questions. The one thing that suddenly came up is how do we deep dive into the information? So how can we connect elements within unstructured data, bring that out of articles that can be contracts, that can be claims advisors in the insurance, and try to connect them. So about 4 years ago, there was this buzzword big data, and we realized, wait a minute, we're an insurance company, we're working in the insurance industry. Everything we do is based on information. So information is the lifeblood of the insurers. So now we see some movements, and there was on one hand information changes, and on the other hand we suddenly have tools where we can dig into this information, where we can analyze information in totally new ways. So we realize we need to do something that seems to be quite essential for us. So we started with that 4 years ago, looking into the details, looking information, and then there was at one point we realized, hey, wait a minute, it's not just how we use information today, it's not just the way improve processes and maybe get some more insights. We realize, hey, there is new information out there. And why is the information out there? Because technology is changing the whole world and is changing the risks themselves. And there we are on the second piece. I said, data is the lifeblood of insurance, and risk is where we're here for. So now the risks are changing through technology. And I give you examples when you look at very, an obvious one is cars. They start to be some now semi-automotive, self-driving, going to self-driving. So it's no more that we insure the car driver, we insure the car manufacturer and the sensors and the AI components. So things are changing from a personal liability to product liabilities. And we have even more. So more and more we use new satellite images, we use drones, we use intelligence robots in manufacturing. So what does that mean from a risk perspective? How does this change the risk? So we started with something called big data smart analytics, and we ended up with something that is fundamentally changing our industry and ourselves in everything that we do. So that's quite a journey. So starting from there, this realization, then there's this other question, people. How do people change to technology? How are you and me, what is our expectation to the insurance? Do we really want to print out the PDF, sign it, and then send it back as a physical paper? Do we really, if we have an accident, have all these filings, etc.? Can we do it leaner, different ways? So a lot is shaping, is changing. And probably one of the biggest changes you can see is in the health insurance. So health insurance is something very, very odd. So because we talk about illness, we talk about cancer, we talk about these very bad things that can happen to you, or you can die on the life insurance side. But actually we should rather talk about how can insurance be your partner to deal with all the things and have yourself a healthy life. Because if you have a healthy life, everyone is happy, and the insurer as well. And believe me, there is enough risk out there. So mitigating risk is also from the insurance industry a good thing. So when we talk again on the people side is data scientists. So we talk about a totally new profession that is emerging, and data scientists are rather younger people with a good education on statistics, math, and computer science, and then also they need this understanding on what we do on the insurance in our case. So how can we attract these people to join SwissRe? And just here living in Zurich, we have Google next door. So why should they not go to Google and come to us? So you said insurance is maybe not the sexiest industry, and I always do these tests. So for example, we were part of Hack Zurich, and then I test a little bit with the students and tell them to really think that insurance is not interesting. And then when we start to talk about weather, about flooding, about the changes in the world and the risk, and they start to realize, hey, actually, it's really cool what you do. And now let's think about all this new data that comes in and how we can use the data to better understand the risk and also find ways to deal with the risk and make our world a better place. And actually, that's also one thing that's really high up in what we want to do at SwissRe, make the world more resilient. And I truly believe that we can do a lot in this space.
I love what you just mentioned. You know, there's a lot of pieces, and I think at the core it's about you know, one thing you mentioned is mitigating risks, and it's about making the world more resilient. It's very much resonating with that. And I felt like one of the core pieces there was having a more seamless experience, you know, for example, with a car, maybe an accident and things like that. Obviously, in an utopian world, you know, the car would file everything by itself, right? I mean, yeah. Maybe one day that will be the case, but I guess it's also about insurance being more as a seamless experience, and not just that, but also being up to date with the actual world. Because, you know, what you mentioned before, now there's more self-driving cars, even though, of course, you know, regulations in Switzerland would probably take another 7,000 years to make it actually work. But still, you know, the things work, they exist right now. And there's many, many, many more things, which changes the entire dynamics of what needs to be insured. And, you know, it's not just about catching up and saying, oh, great, so let's just change these things, because they have a massive impact on everything, also on the business model itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we're referring to on the personal side, and we see that as we here in any easy way interacting with each other on through a tablet, through Skype, video things. So this is totally new world if you compare how the world looked like 15 years ago. And there is an expectation also towards the insurance industry that it's much easier. So far, the insurance industry saw itself as, we protect you against some losses. It's a coverage. And that's it. And more insurers started to realize, hey, we need to give you a bit more, because when you buy today a smartphone, you go buy an iPhone, you get a lot of additional services on top of it. So also the insurance industry needs to think about, how can we add more value? Because if you pay, every one of us has this experience, we pay for years our premiums, thousands of dollars, and we never have anything for it. And we don't realize that actually it's good, we don't need anything, because that means we're safe. But in case something happens, we know that we're not in troubles, but that's very intangible. And so the insurer needs to be much more present and being part of your life, helping you to live a more safer life, help you to understand what kind of risk you have and how you can mitigate the risk. So now when we look at a motor, for example, is it the right thing to have this dongle in your car which looks how you drive and then you get the reduction on your premium? Or is it more about how can we help you to understand, hey, you have a risky behavior because you drive roads that are very risky, you drive at times when there are lots of accidents, or these kind of things that for you would be probably good to know, oh, actually I was not aware. if I go half an hour later or I take another route, I reduce my risk. So these kind of things, it is being more closer to you. I think that's an important thing.
It's interesting you mentioned healthcare as a good example, and I think it's a very good example because healthcare is probably in the biggest transition from a model that's just about fixing problems versus prevention, and insurance as a whole is very similar, because I mean the entire insurance world is sort of like built on fear. I mean you got to protect yourself, right? Because something may happen. Even though you have no idea when or what or anything about the actual risk, you have no idea. You just know that maybe there's something that may happen, and in a Swiss culture that works really well because we want to insure our insurances that are insuring our insurances, so we're happy with that. But as everything changes, also generations change, that's in a global culture also not very sustainable, just basing it on fear. So what you mentioned there is about also more about prevention. It's more about transparency. It's more about allowing people to really know what the risks are and know what choices they have and know what the best option is and things like that, versus just saying, okay, that's basically, we got 3 models and you got to pick from one of those, and they're just different levels, and really customizing it more to the people and giving more power to the people at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So there's a saying here is, insurance is sold today. It's not bought. And it's not bought because the understanding why I should buy it is not so clear. Now, we are a bit here in Europe in general, and you mentioned Switzerland, and extremely so. We're very much aware on risk, and everyone probably is a bit over-insured. If you go to other countries, if you go like to India, if you go to, and also in China, or if you go to South America, even the US, there's a lot of knowledge missing to understand it. And when you look at especially the high growth markets, the developing markets, so when you have nothing, there is nothing you can endure. When you start to, as soon as wealth goes up and you start to have something that is worth to protect, then people need to think about, hey, if I have a flooding and my own machine is destroyed, I lose everything I built up in the last 20 years. The thing is there, do these people have enough money to buy insurance? And that's where we have like this micro insurance concept, where we also from SwissRe, where we work with governance representative to think about, hey, how can we help there so that people get a basic insurance for bigger disasters. And then when you have your first valuables, you start to insure the valuables, you have probably your crop, you have constructions. These are the first things that emerge in these markets. And only then later on it's all about my health, about my life, and then liabilities. That's only when the society is very developed, then we talk about these kind of things. And there is a huge protection gap in the world. So it's in the trillions that is not protected. And we see that very bad examples is like Haiti, when there is again a storm in Haiti and nothing is insured and everything is destroyed and there is just nothing. Last year was a very bad year for the world, also for us as insurer. We paid a lot, but that's why we're here for. So when we see the earthquakes in Mexico, when we see the big storms in the US, all these things tell us, give us the right to be here, because these events could not be covered by the society. These people, if they don't get some relief and money afterwards to rebuild their homes and to know where to stay, it's a huge disaster in the society. So that's the other thing. So one is, yes, there is this insurance for you and me personally. How can we make it more easy to access and to understand why do I need it? How can I easily buy it? But also when I have something, to make it very easy for you to get a replacement of what has been damaged or get the money that you need. And then are the big things, and that's for an insurer very important, flooding, storms, that earthquakes can happen, where a huge amount of money is needed, where we do the coverage then there as a reinsurer.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's very inspiring when you talk about insurance, because it certainly, gives a different picture. And I want to dive a little bit deeper, because it's been such a passionate discussion, and I want to dive a little bit deeper. Once again, it's a more open-ended question, but if you think about it, what is that thing that gets you up in the morning? Like, what is that thing that gets you inspired to go up every morning and go do the work and deal with the challenges and head towards that bigger picture vision?
So for me, I'm a people person, so I love to work with people. And what excites me is to work with all the different experts towards doing something that really makes a difference and changes. So, for example, yesterday I had the pleasure, I was invited into the opening of the opening of the innovation garage of Generali. And it's so exciting to be there, to hear what they want to do, how they want to change, and also hearing them talking about these changes that are needed to work with each other. And there were some disruptors there that disrupt the insurers with some new channels, digital channels, which actually is a direct competition, sitting there on the same table, talking with each other, and being very open, say, okay, you're a competitor in a totally different way, but we see that as an opportunity to rethink how we all move forward. So I had the pleasure to be part of 2 accelerator programs that we launched from SwissRe out of India and of Bangalore, but they were global ones. So we had companies from the US, from Singapore, from Africa, from everywhere. And what is really exciting when you talk to these companies, and these are not the very early startups, so they probably already in the business for a couple of years. Some already have like 100 employees, etc. But when you hear about the passion of why they do these things and what they want to change, and then to interject this view of the risk element. So I'm a strong believer in the future we will see much more this kind of ecosystem where you have a company that is looking specifically, for example, one collaboration we have is with an Indian company called Goki. What they want to do, when I first met the CEO, he said, I want to be the biggest virtual gym in the world. So just as a background, he made a fortune in doing like Indian Games platform, and it was sold to Disney for 100 million. So he was a bit bored with a personal trainer and started with training, and they were chatting on WhatsApp. And he realized, hey, actually that's very engaging. So he built a platform where you have a physical person that excites you and keeps you up to speed to do some exercise and eat healthy and do these changes. And now it's called your health prevention system. So they really changed their focus in wait, we can do much more in helping people to be more healthy. So these kind of discussions. So working with this company, in that case, we add now the insurance perspective to it, because insurers want their insureds to be more healthy. They bring this service in. It's a wonderful ecosystem that's evolving. So that's the one thing that excites me. Bring these people together, come up with something new. We're now also doing boot camps, kind of condensed 5 days, very intense like workshops, doing design thinking like everyone's currently doing, but really get to the point where we have something tangible we can move forward. So these are the things that for me is really give me a lot of motivation and energy, and there is so much that can be done, and we're only starting. So I believe there's a long way in front of us and a lot of exciting stuff.
Now, this is very interesting. The term ecosystem is talked about so much these days. I mean, I recently read an article about industries are becoming ecosystems, and it's very, very interesting. And everybody seems to understand a new world order in a sense of what you just mentioned about competition is a good example, right? We're sitting next to each other in an event and we go like, oh, in the world of yesterday, we have been fierce competitors. In the world of today, we can work together. I mean, this is very different, and it requires very different thinking, very different mindsets. So talk to me quickly about ecosystems. So why do you believe ecosystems are so important? Also looking at the industry of insurance right now, in how it is, how it's been, and how it could be.
Yeah. So when we talk about technology, and as I mentioned, technology has a big impact on our industry. And one of the elements is how we sell insurance to people. So when you buy a car and you buy it in Switzerland, you have to have an insurance. Otherwise, you cannot get your license plate. So you go to the car dealer, then you select your car, then you go to your insurance, tell them, look, I buy this car, to get the permission from them. They send it then now electronically. Car dealer gets your number plates, and then you can drive. Actually, but you would like to have, I want my car and I want my insurance directly when I buy it. I don't want to have these two things. So actually, this is one thing that is happening. Not all the insurers like that, because it's a new field also for the car dealers. The other thing is, for example, if you go to booking.com and you book your flight and your hotel, and you actually have to deselect the checkbox at the end of that. No, I don't want travel insurance. So if you don't have travel insurance, that's probably a good thing to leave it there. If you have, then you can take it off. But it's included in this process. So when I always make this comparison, if you like a shopping mall, there are shopping malls that are full of people every weekend, every Saturday, everyone goes there, and there are others that are not that successful. And I think it's the right mix. So I go on the Saturday to the shopping mall because I need groceries. Then I probably go past the pharmacy. Then, there is, I need some money. I go to an ATM and probably I see something else. But I go there primarily because of the groceries or because I want to have some clothes or whatever. So now imagine you have a shopping mall full of insurers. Would you go there? I mean, probably you will go there once because then you say, okay, I need to have my insurance, but that's probably it. So there is not this layer of an insurance shopping mall. So we need to work together with the different players to make it interesting. So, and it's similar in an ecosystem, can be a lot of different things. So think about a port. You have ships coming into the port, you have the port authorities, then you need someone to unload the ships, then they need to place somewhere, then someone picks the stuff up, all these things. Everything needs to coordinate it. So the better you coordinate these things, so everyone has something to do there, and you try to optimize that. Now, from an insurance perspective, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So you probably recall, I think it was 2 years ago, Tianjin, where there's this huge explosion in China because some of these chemicals were too close together, they exploded. Unfortunately, there were a lot of cars next to it, huge damage. So if the port would have looked at it from a risk perspective, probably would not have placed something that can be damaged close to something when it gets hot or explodes will be damaged. So how can we add this element to what industries normally want is process improvement, cutting costs, being faster, and also take away the risk, and the things that you cannot take away is then covered. So we play like an element in this ecosystem. And a colleague once said that very nicely. He said, an ecosystem needs to run on itself. That's like the main street. So when the shopping mall is running, then you can place your insurance booth in the shopping mall because people walk by and maybe they come in. That's then the Wall Street on top. So that's an interesting concept if you think about that. And there's a lot about this. If you have like a Fitbit or something like that, and then you take how much you walk, how you sleep, everything, and then they give you some examples on how you can improve. So that's also an ecosystem. Now think on top of that, we add insurance and say, hey, actually, you have a very good health style. Now, unfortunately, you have diabetes, which is a critical illness, very hard to endure. But if you have a healthy lifestyle and you really care about your health, then probably, yes, we can endure it. We cannot enjoy it if you have a bad health lifestyle, because no one will pay for your bad health lifestyle, because that will cost a lot of money. But there are new things that are possible in understanding who you are. What I want to mention, just in that respect, talking about health and life, it's a very critical topic, especially also for endurers, because obviously we need to know what is your exposure, what is your health situation, because eventually we take the risk from a big crowd, and then we use the solidarity principle, so everyone pays in case someone gets ill. If you don't know how healthy you are, then obviously the cost will be too high and everyone needs to pay for it. And that's what insurer and insured not what we want. But then there is a certain gray zone. How much shall and needs an insurer know, and where is your personal and private life? And that's a very sensitive topic, and something that going forward is even more accelerating, because there's more data around. And the question is, how much can we use? How much shall we use? And where it's an absolutely no-go. And there are lots of changing, like this new GDPR regulation in the EU, which gives some guidance and also helps for the insurance to find out, okay, how can we do it? Just to say, why is the insurer doing it? If you really want to make it easy, you don't want to fill out a 110 questionnaire and go to the doctors for fluid tests. You want to do it digital on your mobile phone right now. Without using additional data, this will not work. But how far can we go? These are very sensitive questions.
Very interesting. I love the way you look at an ecosystem also from a customer journey perspective, because at the end of the day, that's basically how the ecosystem gets to work. Now, I want to round off the conversation a little bit about leadership. So quickly talking a little bit about leadership, because leadership in an unknown world is, not the easiest challenge in the world as well. And, in every organization, at least every established organization, seems to be in a constant change period, constant transformation period, a never-ending story, which also comes with, no longer really predictability much, no longer really about stability. Things are changing, things are clashing. So from a leadership perspective, how do you work with these kinds of uncertainties? How do you work with, teams in settings like that? You mentioned, in civil service, you mentioned a good example there, but also how do you do that in business in situations like that?
So business is totally different in civil service, obviously. I give you an example that was for me very insightful. So 4 years ago, I was preparing for the big data smart analytics strategy for SwissRe. So at that time that we realized, well, there is a change, as I mentioned before, because data is the lifeblood and this is changing. But it was very hard at that time to say anything, because the only thing we knew is like there's something like telematics and this in the car environment. So 2 years later, we did a second refined strategy. And there was one thing I realized talking to our chief underwriting officer. He said, look, a strategy is we're here. The world is changing. We have a burning platform. That's how the world will look like in 5 to 10 years. That's how we need to be in 5 to 10 years. And there is a gap, and closing the gaps, that's a strategy. That gives you a very clear direction. You can do your roadmaps. You can write down exactly what needs to be done. And you can lead your people in telling them, look, these are the things you need to do. Unfortunately, if you look back 5 to 10 years, think about how the world looked like. So to make a prediction 5 to 10 years now and to say how we get there will more and more not be possible. So from a leadership perspective, saying you need to do this, 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 now I'm talking about the environment of digital and analytics, is not working anymore. So I see it's much more like having a certain picture on how things could be, and leave a lot of freedom within these areas to find out how we want to fill it. So I think if you have no clue what to do, then it's dangerous, because you do a lot of things, and a lot of things fails, not just because they fail, but also because there's no value in it. So we need at least to have an idea on where do we believe is value if we do something, but then we need to really rethink on how we address it. So all these buzzwords like agile, project management, like the fast fail, open thinking, out of the box, they are very true. But we also need to be clear, what do they mean? So what I heard a lot is fast fail is important, but make sure you fail only once. Well, wait a minute, if we know that's the right direction and we fail because the data is not good enough or because we had some wrong assumptions, if you look at the startup, they go in the direction and then they realize, oh, it's not working. They not just drop and go then to another company to work for. They just take the learnings and then find new ways, and maybe they shift, like what I told you with Goki before, biggest virtual gym in the world to preventive healthcare. So it's the same thing. They do exactly the same thing. They added now new features more in that direction, but it's the same idea. And I think we need also to think like this. A failure is not a failure. It's a learning. And I recall when I took to see someone from the Lumen Lab in Singapore, he said, I don't believe in innovation and all these moonshot ideas. I believe in learnings. We need to do things, we learn from what we do, and then we open up a new horizon, and then suddenly find something, and then we go for that. The thing is, we need to drop certain things. Sunk cost is important, but we need to inspire people to think more in, hey, it's cool to do something. So that's for me, when we talk about leadership, is really enable people to bring their brain, their ideas, very diverse to the table, so we can create something new. And from a managerial point of view, is to make sure that whatever we do has a value and moves forward. And if we create something at the end, we say, oh, that's cool, lots of insights, what do we do? And I saw that a lot of time. And every time we have a project where it generates great insights out of the data, I always say insights have no value. They only have value when we get them into impacts. So we need to think about how we transform an insight in impact. And if you don't do that upfront, we end up in, oh, that was a cool insight, but we have no clue what to do with it.
I love the way you look at this. I mean, transforming insights into impact, that as a term, I think is really, really powerful. And the way you look at, yes, let's know what we're doing, let's have an idea about what we're doing, but let's leave a lot of open space, and also not say, okay, so if we do that, if we try it, it fails, let's forget about it and try something else. Maybe, it's not just about that, but it's about really learning, first and foremost, looking at the insights and then transforming these insights into impact. And impact may be, let's try it again, but slightly different like this, or let's not do it again because it was, it was doomed to fail from the beginning. So let's go in this direction. And these things come out of trial and error, but more importantly, from the actual learning, and then from the learning into the impact. So this has been a very inspiring conversation, Peter. Thank you so much for being in the show and sharing your insights and your story. We're going to link to your profile and also to SwissRe below this video, so people can learn more about what's going on, what's happening, and also connect with you. So once again, thank you so much for being on the show, Peter.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.